Hello and welcome to our last week together. It's already week 7 and I just wanted to go over what is expected for week 7. This is a week of closures, a week of completions, and our assignments and our readings also reflect that. So I'm going to start from the bottom up here. Please complete the survey that's in this week's activities. Then we have a self-care activity. I know that most of us have been very busy with the coursework and probably not have had enough time to take care of yourself, but now that course is over, maybe you could try. All right. I'm going to start with the trauma explanation summary, and let's take a look at that. You have to submit it in the major projects and assignment area of the course. Let me go there. If you're submitting a written trauma explanation, make sure that the file you're submitting is a Word document. And if you're submitting a video, copy paste your link here and also upload a reference page. So this is very important. You need 1 page of references that you're going to use during your talk if you are going to present a video. So let's go and take a look at what is expected. This grade, this exercise is worth 10 points of your 10% of your final grade. Excuse me today, I'm just very tired. I came home from work and I'm doing this video, so I'm like tripping over my own tongue here. So this exercise is important because your delivery really matters. So when someone who's traumatized, who has been marginalized, who has lost trust, who has lost faith, comes to you, your demeanor, your tone, the way you look at the client, the way you treat a client, non-verbally, everything is going to make an impact on the client. And that's why we do this exercise. Is essentially you will act as a therapist and speak to the person. Okay, and you can either do it in writing or through a video presentation. So what you have to do is provide a brief description of the person you are educating about the impact of trauma, include a clear description of the impact of trauma, speak in words and tone that show an understanding of this impact, and speak in words and tone that show an understanding of the developmental needs of the person. All right. So if you're writing it, it has to be about 3 to 4 pages long. And if you are verbalizing the trauma explanation through video, it should not be more than 15 minutes long. It should demonstrate your own thoughts and knowledge on the course material. And if you use outside sources as you plan your video summary, please be sure to give credit to the authors. For example, you might say, Rothschild defines trauma as, in order to let the listener know who you're referencing. Okay, and then you must also submit a reference page for any sources cited during your presentation. So along with the video, there is still 1 page of citation that you would have to submit. Now going to how the points are distributed in this assignment, provide a brief description of the hypothetical person being educated. This is worth up to 1 point. So who is your client? Age, gender, race, education, socioeconomic status, everything comes in here. And so you would give a brief explanation of your client. Now the description of the impact of trauma. Okay. So this is key. It is worth 3 points. So it's not just sufficient to say that your client was in an accident or was a victim of abuse or was a victim of domestic violence, but how did that actually change your client? And look at all the case studies that we've done. Raven, the impact on trauma is that she is dissociating. She's not really engaged with her school, her community. She is engaged in a way, but very superficially. She self-harms. There's a lot of shame. Okay, so that's the impact of trauma. So this is really important. the distinction, I don't want a description of the trauma. For example, that she was abused by her mother's boyfriend. I would like to know what was the impact of trauma. Now these 2 are easy points worth up to 3, and 2 points is your words and tone. So one is that you have to show an understanding of the impact of trauma to the person. Okay? And so honing into what they must have felt. Abandoned, neglected, lack of trust. And so you don't say that directly to the client. Oh, I understand because this happened to you, you did this. But you could start hinting at things like, I know it must be difficult for you to trust people, or something like that. So you have to acknowledge what the impact of trauma was, and that's up to 3 points. And your words and tone show an understanding of the developmental needs of the person. So again, look through all the cases that we've read, Perry especially, where he started approaching the boy, I think Justin, who was in the cage. He approached him very cautiously and responded to the developmental needs of this child who was raised in a cage. How did he respond to Amber, who was a teenager and rebellious? How did he respond to the mom? In our first case, he dropped her home. So he's had different responses to different people. And so your words and your tone have to match your client. So if your client is a 5-year-old, you may not use words like, oh, you're hypervigilant or something like that. You would use simple language to explain something to your client. So that's the words and tone, showing an understanding of the developmental needs. So this is, you've been through this in other assignments. It has, if you write it, it has to be in the APA format. And the video, you have to submit a reference page following the APA format, and you have to display professional appearance and demeanor. Speaking is clear, concise, and appropriate to the hypothetical person being educated. Okay, so this is the trauma explanation summary, and I'm going to go back to the other activities. We go to discussion for week 7. This week we are not using Perry or Vanderkolk, or we are using a Widener social work shared case example, and it's about Anita, who's a 35-year-old biracial female who lives in North Philadelphia, and she's seeking help in an outpatient mental health setting because her son has become increasingly defiant of her household rules, is disrespectful. Her parents are both dead. Anita was 13 when her father was murdered. Her father murdered her mother in front of her, following years of abuse towards her mom, her brother, and herself. Primary goal at this time is to help her son stay on the right path towards completing high school, to avoid temptation of the street, and she's confused about how to parent her son at this time. So this is, I just went over it in very, very brief, but this is your case study that you are going to use. Let me go here. What you have to do is use therapeutic interventions from at least 2 of the dyad trauma therapy presentation as support for ideas. So this case study has a lot of elements that we are discussing in our presentations. Okay, so you can use some supporting evidence from your classmates' presentations. And again, use headings, do not summarize the case, and don't use just direct quotes, but try and write about what you have taken away from the readings and what your understanding is. So we're just going to use one prompt, and that is a therapeutic approaches prompt. And what we're going to do is, what do you think will help the person relate to themselves? This Anita relating to herself, to other individuals or her children, their groups. Now again, this would be this friends. and community would be school, maybe libraries, and society in healthier ways. So she wants them to avoid certain institutions like the prison or the streets. So that's macro. Okay. Another example, if you want to take Antoine Fisher, I'm just using his example so to illustrate these three approaches. Micro would be how does he relate to himself and other individuals. So it's in a continuum. Okay, all these approaches are not watertight. So how does he relate to himself? How does he relate to other individuals like his girlfriend, their groups like his friends? Community could be even his therapist's office, his extended family, and society or macro could be the Navy, okay, which is an institution, society at large for him. So this is part 1, and you're going to take the therapeutic approaches prompt for this case, and then you have part 2 where you describe what have you taken away from this course and any thoughts or comments that you might want to share with your classmates. So this is therapeutic approaches and final prompts, and then we have right here the discussion is by the end of week 6, one of the members of your team will post your PowerPoint presentation and title it with your group's name and trauma topic and presentation. Now the responses are going to be by end of week 7, and each one of you has to review all the presentations and essentially talk about what did you learn from it, what were the strengths, and give some constructive feedback. All right, now going back, so we've covered all the assignments, the survey, self-care, trauma explanation, the discussion using therapeutic approach, and this is a case study that we're doing, and that's different from the Perry book. And then you have the presentations that are going to be uploaded. And I want to briefly go over the readings, which are Perry, Rothschild, and van der Kolk. And Perry and van der Kolk are really closings, and they're talking about advocacy and perhaps uses of other modalities to help trauma. And Rothschild is still going strong, and her case is really something wonderful. A client comes up to her and says he does not remember the trauma, but he's exhibiting all the symptoms of trauma, and this is causing him great anxiety. And so she is startlingly honest with him, tells him what she can and cannot do, and you'd have to read the case to see how it all unfolds, but I really love that case. So this time we have fewer readings, more leaning towards closing and endings, and that's what we're going to do this week. Okay, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about Antoine Fisher, about the turning point in his therapy, and you can give me your views if you have the time. I do feel that the turning point came when he entered Dr. Davenport's office for the 3rd time, when he was creating a scene outside in the waiting room, because he wanted more sessions, I think, and he finally told the doctor, I don't know what to do. And that, to me, was his turning point, where he was vulnerable, he admitted he needed help, and he didn't, all his defenses were down. So that's just some of my thoughts, and I will see you one more time before we end. Until then, please take care.